Hello everyone! Whoops. Hi guys! I hope, can you guys again as always give me a little thumbs up if you hear me? Please. One thumbs up, please. Can you guys hear? Woo! Thank you! My indie gang always got my back. Okay, I think we'll wait just a second to start. And again, I have my notes right to your left, so if I peek over here, please excuse. I'm just trying not to miss anything important. And if you do have questions, it would be super helpful if you could ask them a little later in the process, because I might answer the questions. I'm trying to involve the questions that you guys have been asking on the post. And also, I'm a scatterbrain, and if I try to answer questions, I'll probably lose my train of thought in spite of the notes. So I'll try to answer every question that's coming, but please do, if possible, ask them towards the end, if that's something you can do for me. Yeah. I'm actually excited to see you guys joining. This topic today is extremely, extremely important. It's basically, gut health is everything. Like, it's literally everything. I'm quite excited to tell you, even though many of you that I see joining already know. So, like, I know that you're just here to see if I do well, I think. Saurav and Priya. So I hope I can tell you a few little new things also. I guess we'll just start, because towards the end of the hour we always rush, right? All right, let's just start. Yeah, we'll be talking about the gut today. We asked in the story whether you want to know about the gut and strong gut, or you want to do yeast. I think yeast is intensely exciting and like, it's really interesting. So I'll probably do that real talk as well, even though you didn't want me to. But yeah, today it's all about the gut, and that also, of course, is connected to yeast and whatnot. So let's just start, and I will start by just the tiniest short description of what the digestive process for our dogs and cats is like. But after that, I'll just keep talking about the inside of the gut, just basically to pass the time. Maybe some people are a little bit late and they don't get to hear about the digestive process, but they do need to hear about the gut. So let's get right into it. Dogs and cats, right? I will just kind of interchangeably talk about dogs and cats and say pets or whatever. And if I say only dogs, I mean dogs and cats, because after all, like, the digestion is very similar. Of course, cats are a little extra special, as we know always, but in general, what I say goes for both dogs and cats just the same. So the digestive process for dogs and cats does not start like it does for us humans when they eat the food, or when they have the food in their mouth. For dogs and cats, they do not have any digestive enzymes or any digestive process going on when they get the food in their mouth. We humans, we have a digestive enzyme in our saliva, which is called amylase, or it might be pronounced differently in English, sorry. But amylase is a digestive enzyme that starts digesting the food while we have it in our mouth. So that's why our parents tell us, chew your food, don't swallow, don't gobble. But for our dogs and cats, it doesn't matter. They can gobble as long as it's not a bone and as long as it's not excessive and all that. but it's fully fine for dogs and cats to consume bigger chunks of meat and of bone, because their digestive process is just very different. It's much more aggressive than ours as humans or that of herbivores or other animals. So if a dog or cat gets food in their mouth and they have a big chunk of meat or whatever, that's fine. It glides down the esophagus. Basically, going down the esophagus for an animal like our pets, the movement is like when we throw up. When we throw up, there's a muscle contraction making the food come out, right? Like forcing it out of our mouth. For our cats and dogs, the movement is the other way around. When they eat, food gets forcefully put down. Like the digestive process for dogs and cats is quite aggressive. And once the food gets into the stomach, the stomach environment is insanely hostile and acidic. That's why it's so important to have a strong gut. And gut lining, we'll come to that later. Anyway, so once those chunks of meat or whatever you're feeding gets into the stomach of the pet, that's when the digestive process starts. The food will be disassembled basically. It'll be basically put in an acid bath. That's what the gut is. And in this process where it gets disassembled into like the amino acids, the fatty acids, the carbohydrates and sugars that the food chemically consists of, then these building blocks of the food, they are disassembled and they will float in a liquid we call chyme liquid. This liquid, liquid always enables you to consume things easier. That's why you get an IV, because, having stuff dissolved in liquid just makes it easier to absorb. So our pets just do that process by themselves because nature is awesome. And this chyme liquid goes through the body after and just basically lets the cells, the gut lining, the bloodstream, the colon, each part take out the nutrients from this chyme that they need. So again, food goes down, gets disassembled into its building blocks, and then everybody can just grab what they need, whether it's the cells, the gut lining, the colon. The digestive process does not stop before basically the poop comes out. The colon even absorbs nutrients, it absorbs water, so it's quite different from us. To get into the gut stuff right now, and we're not getting out of that until we're done here. The microbiome is the most important thing that you have to think about, that you have to feed, that you have to kind of be aware of. The microbiome, that sounds like a weird term and stuff, but the microbiome is made up out of literally trillions of tiny organisms. Viruses, fungi, bacteria, like all kinds of tiny little organisms. They live in the mouth, they live in the respiratory tract, they live in the gut. You also have a microbiome on the skin. Basically everybody has it, but we're talking about the gut microbiome of our pets right now. So these little organisms that live inside our pets, they literally outnumber the cells by 10 times. That is how many little things live inside your dog or cat. And these guys are not our enemy if we do it right. They are literally the immune system of our dogs or cats, sorry. So a healthy microbiome means a healthy pet. This is the good news. If you feed the gut right, you're almost sure to have a healthy pet forever. No allergies, no joint issues, no thyroid issues, no nothing. But if you don't feed the gut right, if you don't keep those little guys in the stomach happy, then it's pretty sure that there will be some issues. So it's kind of important to talk about, obviously. So these little organisms that we spoke about, that we call the microbiome in its total, they live in the gut, the ones we're talking about. And they build little colonies, basically helping each other, working together to keep your pet healthy. If these colonies of bacteria and little organisms are thriving, then your pet will be resistant to any kind of harmful bacteria, to parasites, all kinds of things. So this is basically the best shield you can give your dog or cat, is to feed the microbiome. The sad thing is processed foods, grains, all these things, sugars, harm the microbiome. They make it weak, and if we already have a weak microbiome in our pet, then we need to be quite careful to build it up again. You know, we're dealing with little living beings here, so we have to give them time to rebalance themselves, to multiply, to get in the right direction. So gut issues are something that will take a while if you like to heal them with food and not like to suppress them with medication. It will take some time, but it is definitely, it pays off. And I hope by the end of this real talk you'll be of my opinion. So what the so what the microbiome does, for example, just to get you started with one of the miracle things it does. If the bacteria and the fungi and whatever in the microbiome are healthy and it's the ones that we want, it's the good bacteria, then let's say your pet gets bitten by a tick with Lyme disease, like Lyme bacteria. Or let's say your cat or dog gets into the trash and eats like this old chicken carcass full of salmonella and whatnot. Those harmful pathogenic bacteria that are in the chicken carcass, the salmonella or the Lyme bacteria, whatever it is, they will enter your dog's body or your cat's body, right? But bacteria are living beings, they're organisms, they're just like us, like just very, very tiny. And they need food and they need resources and they need space. Like they can't just live out of thin air, they have to have some sort of resources to live. So if your pet is fed very well, if the stomach and the microbiome, like the gut and the microbiome, are healthy, then the harmful bacteria coming in, the virus, the salmonella, whatever it is, even parasites, once they come in, the good bacteria will kind of mob them out. Like they will take the resources. They will not let these bacteria that are harmful multiply. They will not give them space to live. They will keep them from multiplying. They will kill them and they will get them out. Basically, the microbiome is our bouncer. Like it's like the most exclusive club in the world if you want it to be the gut of your pet. And the microbiome is the best kind of like bouncers that you could ever imagine. But you do have to feed them right so that they can do their work, obviously. So if you fed your healthy dog or cat a parasite, it should just go and be destroyed and done with it. Like that's how animals survive in the wild, right? There's no tiger, no wolf that says, oh dear God, I think I just ate something with a parasite, I'll have to like go to the vet. They don't do that. And the reason that they don't do that is because they always eat species appropriate if they're in the wild. Nature has designed a full, complete thing that works. So if we go back to nature and if we do what nature does, then we're getting all the benefits. And then we don't have to worry all the time. And then we don't have to do our human stuff with medication and whatnot. So anyway, if your pet has an imbalance in these gut bacteria, and there's not just the good bacteria that we want, but there's bad bacteria because maybe we're feeding grains, maybe we're feeding kibble, maybe we're just, doing something that's not great in the diet, then this disbalance is called dysbiosis. That's just saying basically the balance is off. Good bacteria are not as many as it should be. Bad bacteria are more than it should be. So now, dysbiosis means your pets will be more prone to diseases because their natural defense mechanism is not perfectly working. And the good bacteria are not the strongest force. It's like a military that's just decimated. So they're still trying, but there's too much to battle, there's too much going on, they can't deal with the new stuff. That's not good. If that keeps going, if you read about dogs dying from like raw meat and all these studies from like, commercial pet food companies and whatnot, where it says, oh, dogs will immediately like die if you feed them something raw. That's when you take a dog or a cat whose microbiome is heavily damaged and then you give them something that is raw and that is actually good. It can't work because you have to have a working system to feed right. Like you cannot just have one right thing and the other one's broken. Like you have to feed the whole system. But we'll talk about this in the whole process. I hope I'm not confusing you yet. Anyway, it's crucial to switch a diet from kibble to wherever you want to go, whether it's home cooked or raw or whatever, it's always important to do that slowly, because the microbiome, the good bacteria that are there, they need some time to work. And when they work and when they kill the bad bacteria, when they starve them, when they, attack them, then the bad bacteria in the process of dying, just like any organic matter that dies, like whether it's a human, an animal, or a bacteria, when we die, we release gases. And when the bad bacteria die, they release gases that are toxic. So if you just switch the diet all of a sudden way too much, then there will be a bad reaction, because those gases are released and they will, cause some issues for your pet. So it's always good to keep an eye on what you're doing and to know exactly what's going on inside your pet's body, just to make sure that you do not misinterpret these reactions. If your pet has a reaction to fresh, good food, then that's most likely just because it's too quick. There's no being that is advised to eat processed food, right? Except for our pets. Like, there's nobody who tells us, well, actually it's better to eat processed food than fresh vegetables. There's nobody who says, oh, horses shouldn't eat grass, they should eat processed foods. But for our pets, yeah, fresh food is horrible. You should feed them only processed food. So that's kind of weird, right? And it doesn't make sense, and it's scientifically just crap. So, sorry. So just go slow and know what's happening. The reactions that you see when you introduce new food usually is a detox, it's a cleaning up process, it's dormant processes just going and exploding and being like, yeah, finally we can work again. Just always be mindful of what you're doing. And don't try to quick, don't overwhelm yourself, don't overwhelm your pet. Other jobs that the microbiome does is, for example, it produces vitamins. These little organisms are incredible. They're much more capable than I always think like dogs are so much smarter than humans and animals have so much more capabilities. Even these bacteria are so much better than us. What is this? Anyway, so these bacteria, these microbiome organisms, they produce vitamins, they produce short-chain fatty acids. They can help absorb nutrients, and again, they can fight pathogens just being bad stuff, basically. Short-chain fatty acids are something that we should quickly talk about, because they not only improve nutrient and water absorption, but they also strengthen something, which is the mucus lining inside the intestines of your pet. And this mucous membrane is another superstar. Like, it doesn't sound very sexy, but it is pretty awesome. It's something we want. The mucous membrane inside your cat or dog's intestines, if it's healthy, will keep so much worry away from you. The intestinal walls are basically gatekeepers. So whatever your pet eats, obviously, gets into the gut. Now, as we spoke, a healthy pet could eat, something horrible like a virus, or they could eat like bad bacteria. They can eat rotten meat if they want to. But the reason for that is, if the gut is healthy, then the gut lining is so good and so tight that these waste things, that these toxins, that the bad things, they don't get out. They just stay basically in the gut until they're flushed out in the end. And the good stuff that's in the chyme, that will be absorbed, because the body, if it's fresh, real food, the body will know what to absorb. It basically, you have the chyme going through, and you have the intestinal lining that has the ability to let stuff diffuse through it into the bloodstream, but only limited, and only stuff that is supposed to go in the bloodstream. Now, if you have an inflamed gut lining, if you don't have the short-chain fatty acids, if you don't have the mucus lining, that's when stuff can diffuse into the bloodstream that is not supposed to be there. So if the gut is damaged by inflammation from, let's say, starch, carbs, grains, processed foods, medication, antibiotics, deworming treatments, anti-tick treatments, steroids, anything, the microbiome cannot fix it because it's weak, and the intestinal lining doesn't keep it back because the junctions between the cells of the intestinal lining, they're inflamed, right? If something's inflamed, it can't be like really tight packed. So then stuff gets into the bloodstream. So what happens if pathogens, bad stuff, gets into the bloodstream? It gets to the liver. Liver is kind of like the cleaning facility of the bloodstream. If the liver will do its best and try to filter everything out, but if there's more grains coming in, more kibble coming in, the liver also isn't able to work as strongly because the liver needs fresh protein to work. So now, if the gut lining is damaged, you keep feeding kibble or grains, bad stuff goes into the bloodstream, the liver tries to flush it, can't do it, too much work, not happening. Now what? It goes into the heart. Now you have an enlarged heart, now you have heart problems. Then you already got your renal system damaged, and now another organ is the skin, right? The biggest organ that we all have. Skin tries to pick up the slack. Now we get rashes. Now you go to the vet and the vet says, oh, your dog has an allergy. Let's do some antibiotics. And then this is it. Like then you have a real issue on your hands because the antibiotics will do what? Exactly. They will kill the microbiome and you're in the cycle of like just bad stuff. So when the gut lining is inflamed and gets leaky, we call it leaky gut syndrome. First dysbiosis, imbalance, then you keep feeding grains and stuff that's not great, you get a leaky gut. Stuff diffuses into the bloodstream that is not supposed to be there. This obviously sets off this chain reaction that we spoke about. The liver has to work harder, doesn't get the nutrients it needs. The whole system tries to work and it doesn't. So now a process starts that we call inflammation. Inflammation sounds bad. It's not. Inflammation is a good thing. Inflammation means trying to, basically the white blood cells and are trying to attack invaders. Inflammation means basically emergency care. They're trying to take care of stuff. Inflammation is only bad when it gets excessive. So that can turn into an autoimmune disease. And that is what can happen if constantly stuff from the gut diffuses into the bloodstream. There's a constant effort from the body trying to attack certain particles in the bloodstream, but it's just not working because there's too many. And then the body, can't work right. And then it attacks everything. You have excessive inflammation. The dog is attacking itself, or the cat is attacking its own bloodstream, basically too much, because the balance is there's too much bad stuff in the bloodstream already. And it's just a whole chain reaction of bad stuff happening. There can skin issues, food allergies, chronic digestive and other disorders. Again, autoimmune diseases, bowel disease, joint conditions. Everything can stem from this excessive inflammation that goes back to the leaky gut. So that's one thing that is very important. A healthy gut is shut. A healthy gut will not let anything that's not supposed to go into your pet's system go into it. So you can rest very much assured, if your pet's gut is healthy, that even if they do something stupid, which, my dogs sometimes do stupid things, but I don't worry, because if they take their bones and I don't watch them and they decide to hide them in the garden and then dig them up 3 weeks later and I'm like, what is this smell? That's disgusting. I can't, and they're eating it happily and there's never a bit of diarrhea because they're fine with it. They know how to deal with it because they only ever get actual protein. So that's really important. Have an eye on inflammation. Have an eye on what you're feeding the microbiome. Have an eye on what is good for your pets, and grains and kibble and processed food and sugar is not it. So another thing that many of you were asking about is behavioral issues. Aggressive dogs, lethargic dogs, sad dogs, cats, my God. Yes, food is 100% connected to the mood. We had this talk last time about mental health, but to get back to that this time, the gut is 100% super important for, neurological health, for brain health, and for the mood. So look, if the gut is called the second brain because brain and gut are very closely linked and they constantly speak to each other. There's a constant communication. Basically, chemical processes happen where they each tell each other what to do, kind of, the gut to the brain and the brain to the gut. A good example for that is when you're excited, when you're anxious, you get butterflies in your stomach, right? That's a direct thing, like your brain tells your gut. Same thing, and that's something that is more related to our topic today, is if you're very hungry or if you eat very poorly, then your mood will often be kind of like unstable, you'll be easily agitated. Like I know that from myself very much. If I work and I just don't eat, I get so agitated. I'm like horrible, I'm unbearable because I'm hangry. And the same can happen to your pet. The same can happen to everybody. So if the food that you're feeding your pets is not nourishing them, if it's just something that gets converted to sugar real quick, gives a spike, and then drops. It's as if you were really, really hungry, you eat a piece of chocolate, you feel fine for like half an hour, and then you get super annoyed at everything because your body is just not nourished. You have a sugar spike, and then you have an intense drop. Your body releases adrenaline, cortisol has to be released, the hormonal balance will be off, and yeah, of course, that's gonna make you or the dog aggressive. It's gonna make the pet unhappy. It's gonna make them unstable. It's gonna make the mood. They don't even know what's going on. Just like we often don't know what's going on when you're just like, why am I so agitated at something? Oh, I think I should eat something. That's what it is. So just be aware that when you're looking at your pet's gut, it's not just about the poop. I know that we all like stare at our pets' poop all the time, and it's a great indicator and all that. But there's more stuff, and the mood is one of them. And if you know that your pet is constantly hungry and constantly scavenging, then probably their food isn't nourishing them. Nobody should always be hungry. So another thing, if your pet is eating chicken and rice every single day, then they'll have a pretty inflamed gut. And they'll probably know, because our pets are very, very like smart, right? Like way smarter than humans. So they'll know there's something off, but they still keep eating it. And that doesn't make them happy. Like if you know what you're doing is not good for you, but you have to do it because you don't have a choice, that doesn't make you like a happy person. That doesn't make you feel happy or well. So of course there can be some aggression, there can be some whining or like crying after food. Just try to see it from their eyes and try to help them get better by feeding different things and trying to feed their microbiome, feeding their gut. All right, so we kind of established, or I established, and you can't really say anything, that all issues in our pets somehow go back to the gut. Whether it's an ear infection, a UTI, enlarged heart or anxiety, I'm pretty sure if the gut is well, the issue will be gone. So 2 major things that harm the gut. Number 1, we talked about this and I will never stop talking about it, is the wrong food. And the second is medication. Now, just a little disclaimer. I'm not against allopathy. I'm not against vets. I'm not one. But I think that medication, antibiotics and all these things should be a last resort. It shouldn't be the first thing you do. I was advised to give my dogs antibiotics at 2 months old for no reason, basically. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. Antibiotics should be literally the last thing that you try, not the first thing. Antibiotics kill everything in the stomach, not just the bad stuff. Anyway, we'll get back to that later. So, what you can do in terms of food. Of course, as always, I'm sure everybody's tired of me saying that, but feed a whole, fresh food diet. Of course, raw is best, but not everybody has to feed raw. Not everybody has to eat perfectly. It's just, if you know what the perfect is, then you can make an educated decision as to which aspects of perfect you think are important for your pet and which not. Just like for ourselves. Like I know a perfect diet doesn't look like mine. There's sure no beer in it, there's no coffee in it, or not as much as I drink. but I enjoy beer and coffee, so I will keep having it. But I know if I feel bad, maybe I should skip the beer for a day, or the coffee. You know what I mean? So it's just good to know what the ultimate perfect is. The reason we have to stay as far away from grains, bread, rice, kibble, all those carbohydrates and starches is that it's basically sugar. It's basically sugar for our pets. Sugar feeds yeast, yeast makes inflammation, and we're back at the leaky gut. So let's try to stay away from that. Another thing that might help you, just believe me, is the intestines of our dogs and cats are among the shortest in any mammals. A short digestive tract just tells you there is no fermenting chamber, like they cannot ferment any plant matter or anything. Animals that are supposed to eat and digest plants, like herbivores like cows or horses, goats, whatever, they have insanely long digestive tracts. Like they literally regurgitate the food and eat it again. That's how difficult it is to break down plant matter. And also that is why green tripe, which is basically the fermenting chamber of the cow or sheep or goat's gut, is the green tripe. That is so beneficial for our pets because it contains the digestive enzymes, it contains the probiotics, it contains all that stuff that our pets don't have by themselves. So it's always good, to take the food according to what our pets need. And green tripe is one of the things that will definitely help the gut. I also remember you asking in the questions to the post, what if I already feed a good diet and my pet still is, kind of not doing well? First of all, it takes a lot of time to heal the gut. The worse or the longer the issues were, the longer it will take and the more difficult it will be to heal your pet's gut. If you do feed a good diet, also stay away from any ointments on the skin, like antibiotics applied to the skin also will harm the microbiome. Just try to stay away from any treatments and give your pet some time. If they suffer, like if they're in pain, of course you have to go to the vet. Of course you don't want to see that. But do try to understand what's going on and why they're in pain and how you can track back. Also try homeopathic medication, Homeocare online, Dr. Ashima is great. She's got a lot of experience. That's somebody I would always, advise you to talk to, because with medications, obviously, neither am I a homeopath nor am I a allopathic doctor. Like I'm not a doctor, so it's always good, I guess, to get an opinion from somebody who knows the deeds of that. Then another thing that's really beneficial is to make some bone broth. I know many of you do that already, but do try to make it in a way, cook it as long as possible, get the fat off, try to get it jiggly, because as we spoke, the intestines break down the food so that the body can absorb needed nutrients. At the same time, the waste, the toxins, whatever, wait inside the gut to be passed with poop later. The walls of the intestines, again, ensure that the good things, water and nutrients are used and the bad things get stuck and locked away until they're flushed out. So if you do make some bone broth, there's gelatin in there, right? Because that's what makes it jiggly. That's what gummy bears also have to make them that consistency often. So along with just helping the fur and like being good for bones and joints and all of that, the gelatin in bone broth can actually patch up some of the mucous membrane. It can help heal those gaps in the gut. So if your pet has issues with leaky gut, bone broth is a good idea. It's easier to digest because it's not raw. It's not gonna cause any issues like it would if you give a pet with an inflamed and hurt stomach. If you give them a raw piece of meat, that might cause like a bad reaction. But the bone broth and the gelatin, that is fantastic. So just doing some of that is a good idea. Also when you're transitioning and your pet is having some issues, do some bone broth. You can always add ginger and other herbs to it to help more. Use probiotics. Probiotics are just the good bacteria that we want in our pets' bodies. So when you need to rebalance and get the good bacteria and kill the bad ones, then just get yourself an army from outside and feed some probiotics. If you're switching the diet, also digestive enzymes are good, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So great probiotics are not just curd. I mean, curd is good. Dogs can't technically digest dairy, but most dogs do fine with some curd or some milk or whatever. But you could try fermented vegetables, which are amazing. Goat milk, if it's raw, even better. If you're in a village setting, please try to get some goat milk raw and give it to your pets. Kefir is also great. There's different probiotics than just those little powders and curd. There's a lot more, and it's worth it to explore that. Because variety obviously always helps. And the more different bacteria strains you're feeding, the better. Another thing, when you feed probiotics, you also have to feed prebiotics. So now we're not just pet nutritionists, we're also bacteria nutritionists, because ultimately what we're trying to do when we feed prebiotics is feed the bacteria inside our pets' stomachs. So apples, for example, bananas, garlic, green leafy vegetables, mushrooms, those are all great sources of prebiotics. Cats should not eat garlic though. I'm not 100% decided on that, but since I cannot really make it out, I would say stay away from garlic with cats unless you know better. I'll get back to those questions a little bit later, so not to confuse you and not to lose my own train of thought, if that's okay. And one important thing. If you feed some processed food or kibble or whatever that says probiotics are inside, that's not true probably. Because kibble is heated so much, and kibble is just, the process just kills the probiotics. There's no way that bacteria strains, good bacteria, survive the process of making kibble. So if it says probiotics, don't believe it. Feed fermented vegetables, feed kefir, feed something else. Don't believe the processed pet food stuff. Again, we spoke about variety in probiotics, but in everything. A variety of nutrient sources provides our bodies with the widest range of different nutrient complexes, and it does reduce the risk of an imbalanced diet. So, for example, omega-3 is one of my favorite examples. If you feed omega-3, right, from olive oil or from hemp seed oil or whatever, that's plant sources. Our dogs can convert a form of omega-3 that is in these plant matters to about 5 to maximum 15% into the active form of omega-3 that actually helps. Cats cannot digest the plant omega-3 at all. So if you feed your cat olive oil for omega-3, there's no need, there's no use. If you feed some fresh fish or some whole fish, then we're talking. Then you get the 100% omega-3 that you need. So just try to vary. Just because something says vitamin C or something says omega-3 or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that this gets to your pet, because we're saying omega-3, but omega-3 is basically it's a nutrient that consists of ALA and DPHA and other nutrients and other chemicals. It's not as easy as omega-3 is omega-3. Again, stay away from antibiotics, please, as much as you can. Again, if your pet needs them, they need them, and I'm not going to say don't do it because I'm not a doctor. But if you can in any way, first try other things like food. Do it, please, by all means. Try homeopathy, try whatever you can to stay away from antibiotics, because those will put you in a devastating cycle often. Antibiotics cannot differentiate between good bacteria, bad bacteria, what's needed and what not. They plow through the gut, they kill everything, and that's where the issues, not end but start, kind of. We said the gut microbiome is kind of the 80% or whatever of the immune system. So when you kill all of them, all the microbiome, all the bacteria, then your pet is more prone to getting sick again. So if you feed those antibiotics, it suppresses the illness, but it also suppresses the immune system. Now, the pet is more vulnerable. Now, if you stop the antibiotics, possibly the underlying issue will pop up again. And at the same time, they're so weak that you might need other medication to care for stuff that happened because the microbiome was so weak because the antibiotics killed it. So there's one good example that I've been really frustrated with, atopic dermatitis or any kind of dermatitis, allergies. You give the dog antibiotics, the skin gets better, then the antibiotics stop, the skin gets horrible again, you need to get back to medication, you need to get back to antibiotics. So after some time with the antibiotics, renal issues will start, not only because of the toxins not being digested and flushed out and constantly coming in new, but also because the liver is overworked, and then the heart, and then the skin. And again, the skin picks up the slack, you see rashes, it's called dermatitis, you get more antibiotics, and it's all just kind of a vicious cycle, but you never even get to the actual issue, which would be feed some cooling protein and the itch will go, because then the gut lining will heal, then the bloodstream will be okay, then the heart will be okay, then the liver will be okay, then the skin doesn't have to do what it's doing, and all of a sudden you have a healthy dog or a healthy cat, and you don't even need any medication. You just need a little bit of time and patience and a little bit of trust in your pet and a little bit of trust in nature. I know it's hard to stand in front of a doctor and say, no, I'll rather see my pet suffer an itch, but that's not like exactly what it is. Like you just need a little bit more time with food. It doesn't work like medication, but on the other hand, medication works for the time it's given, and then it's over. But if you give food and you give a better diet, then you'll never have to worry again. And you don't have to do anything extra. You just feed, and that's it. No supplements, no medication, no nothing. Just food. Like, nature is smart like that. You can even, I saw, like recently with the people who had these issues with the black fungus after Corona. What was the reason? Because they get steroids, they get antibiotics, they get all these things, and then they suppress the immune system, and then black fungus comes. The growth of harmful bacteria is elevated. It is an issue. Antibiotics are severe, heavy medication. Like, they're drugs, they're actual drugs. We have to be aware of that. Like, yeah, anyway. Vaccines also. I'm not against vaccinations, of course, especially where here in India there's still, there's many street dogs and many ticks, and just the climate, makes a lot of cool animals, but also small and harmful animals and ticks and bugs and whatnot come alive. But over-vaccinating is a huge issue, man. Vaccines like rabies, they last up to 15 years. There's studies from the US that show that rabies can last up to a whole lifetime. And then the vet tells me you have to vaccinate twice a year. Like, what? That's just going to kill the whole gut. If you can, which is quite difficult, but if you can, get a titer test before you vaccinate. I know that it's extremely expensive and it's an annoying process, but if you have the chance to do a titer test before you vaccinate your pet, please do so. We've been handed antibiotics and painkillers and all these syrups and whatnot every single time we went to the vet, which was basically 3 times for spaying and neutering every pet. But we've never given any of these things, and that's what makes my pets healthy. I'm pretty sure that we didn't give the medication. So just always before doing something, just think about, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What else could I do? And then make an educated decision. Maybe ask your vet. Ask them, hey, why? Why do I do this? Why do I have to do that? Can I do it with food? Is there any other way to do it? Just try to be sure. Another last thing, stress also affects the gut. Just like for us humans, try to make your pet feel safe. Try to give them a routine. Try to give them a safe space. Don't, shout or fight in front of them. Try to keep them away when you have loud music, or some of our pets like to be among us when we party, and others, prefer to just refrain to their own safe space. Let them be. Let them have their personality, and let them, without letting them dance on your nose, just give them the room to be themselves, basically. So let's get back to how to improve the gut health. That is often, damaged by processed foods and whatnot that so perfectly mess up the whole system. Not everybody has to feed fresh food, like fresh meat every single day. Not everybody can, and I'm fully aware that it's quite frustrating when you hear all this and you think, yeah, well, I'd like to buy this, I'd like to buy some fresh duck and rabbit, but I can't, and I have a vegetarian family and I can't cook it. That's fine. Like, you don't have to feed a full raw super protein diet. You can always work around it. Just keep trying, you know. I'd like to address real quick kibble. So if you do feed kibble, that's okay. Sometimes there's no other choice. But most manufacturers use the same ingredients in all their formulas, you know. It's kind of a scam, like golden retriever food, German shepherd food. An Indie needs the same nutrition as a Great Dane, as a I don't know, Shih Tzu. It doesn't matter, like they're all dogs, it's fine. So rather than giving different formulas from one pet food manufacturer, please try to rotate the brands, which will also decrease the risk of excess vitamins. Because look, in the US there have been cases of kidney failure and cats and dogs dying because of excessive vitamin D in dry pet food. Like processed commercial pet foods. I forgot the brand, but you can Google it. The crazy quantity of synthetic nutrients in kibble is because kibble is basically dead food, right? It's heated and it's like there's no real food that comes in like little brown pellets. Like, that's weird. So the food is insanely heated, like everything basically dies inside. It's often like very, very, very low quality stuff that's inside, so they have to heat it to an insane degree. That obviously makes all the nutrients and all the enzymes and everything die. So then after the process is done, the commercial pet food has to add synthetic minerals, synthetic nutrients, because otherwise they wouldn't meet the nutritional standards to be allowed to sell it as pet food. The excess vitamins, especially the ones that are synthetic, that are not bioavailable fully, they can cause great problems. As mentioned, kidney failure because of the vitamin D excess is one of them, but there's many, many more issues that can happen because of these synthetic supplements, synthetic nutrients, all of that. So if you do feed kibble, try to read the label. If you don't know most of the words on the ingredient list, don't feed it. If the company or the person who's making your pet food calls it a secret recipe or has secret ingredients or doesn't want to disclose it because I don't know why you wouldn't, stay away from it. People need to tell you what exactly is in your food and in your pet's food. If there are preservatives, if there's soy, corn, potatoes instead of meat, don't do it. Try to go for food that's free of artificial preservatives, corn, wheat, soy, dyes, and legumes. This is one thing I'd like to address because I think many people do feed legumes in an attempt to be better and to feed grain-free. Legumes being peas, lentils, beans, stuff like that. These are also often used in kibble as like low-cost protein kind of. When it's grain-free, then you add these lentils or beans or whatever. That's not good because first of all, the crops are often sprayed with glyphosate to make them dry just before harvest, and that obviously leaves a lot of toxic residue on them that then gets into our pets. And the other thing is that legumes are high in lectins. Lectins are sticky kind of proteins that make carbohydrates lump together. They inhibit natural processes in our pets' bodies, and they're basically anti-nutrients. They're not just not nutritious, they're actually working against being nutritious. So peas, lentils, and beans should not be in the diet. If you do have to feed grains, just go for brown rice, quinoa, do millets, rotate it, some rolled oats, just try to get variety in it and try, if there is something harmful, you're not feeding it every day, you're switching it up. Again, then many kibble manufacturers say that they have complete and balanced pet food. It's not true. Laboratory-derived vitamins, synthetic vitamins and nutrients are not going to nourish your pet. They're going to clog the cell receptors. The fake nutrients are not bioavailable. Parts will be stored. It's actually going to make it harder for your pet's body to take actual real nutrients when you feed them, because the cells will be clogged and the receptors will not be working because they're stuffed with fake vitamins, basically. Again, humans cannot copy nature, like we just can't. We cannot make vitamin C in a lab the way that a lemon can make it, or a bone, or whatever. Like, just try to stick to whole food sources wherever you can. So, for example, if you are feeding a vitamin supplement, instead, just go for organ meats. Organ meats are super rich in minerals and vitamins. Like, the multivitamin supplement from Canine India is liver and fruit, because that's actual whole food sources of vitamins and minerals, of course. So, there's no need to go for synthetic. You can just feed some liver. You can just feed some fruit. You can feed the vitamins without going to a little bottle and a little plastic thing, whatever. So another thing is, try to source, if you do get organ meats or other meats, try to source ethically. Try to source from happy animals that, in the best case, were raised on a farm, or somehow not the sad chicken from the stall, because a sad animal just can't give happy hormones and cannot supply the nutrition that we want, apart from just, it's just something probably none of us animal lovers want to do, feed a sad animal. I guess all of us are not super happy about the fact that our pets have to eat meat, but if we do feed meat, then at least let's try to respect all parts of the food chain, right? The next thing that's oh my god, I only have 5 minutes left. Are you kidding me? Ugh, okay, I'm gonna skip through so much. Fiber is good. Omega-3, please feed omega-3 as much as you can from whole food sources. Fish oil, please don't read my last blog on it. I wrote a blog on fish oil some time back. Sardines and other oily fish are a much better choice to get omega-3 into your pets, into your cats and dogs. If you cannot get any fresh fish and you don't want to get Canine India or anything else, any other good fish, try getting the canned fish that is packed in water, not in oil, not with salt. Try to get the water-packed canned fish. That's also, at least it's an actual food and not just some derivative of something. Another thing, digestive enzymes. We need digestive enzymes. Pets cannot digest. Yeah, our pets cannot digest raw vegetables. We know that, but we need to talk about digestive enzymes. If you see, for example, the best example, back where I'm from, we like to eat raw fish, right? I love raw tuna, for example. When we went fishing for Canine India, I totally steal the tuna, and I make it at home, and I just cut it thin. I put some lime on it, and you will see, if you do that yourself, a thin piece of meat or fish, and you put some lime juice or some pineapple juice, it will basically look like cooked, because the digestive enzymes in the fruit will process the meat and the fish. It's insane. It's really great to see, and it's going to show you how digestive enzymes work. Digestive enzymes do exactly what their name is. They help digesting the food. Fruit have those digestive enzymes. That's how they go bad. If you have a raw banana and you leave it, the enzymes inside, they are alive. That's how the banana gets sweeter over time, because it's basically it's digesting itself and breaking itself down, becoming sweeter. It's breaking down, like we spoke before, into the sugars that, make up the fruit. So feeding digestive enzymes is a fantastic idea. Raw honey is good. That has amylase and protease. Mangoes, bananas, papaya has a special digestive enzyme. Just keep trying to add fresh, whole foods. Even if you cannot, get a whole beef green tripe today, you can get a papaya, I think. So try to do whatever is in your possibilities. If your kibble says there's digestive enzymes in it, again, I call bull, because they will be dead after the process they use for making kibble. So basically, don't believe anything kibble says. Don't believe anything that any commercial pet food says. And read the ingredients, please. I recently read the ingredients of some brands. They are called chicken something, and they don't even have any meat in there. Why you call it chicken then? Anyway. So all in all, just to end this before we are cut off, whatever issues your pet has, it's most likely connected to the gut. Do not tackle it with medication first. Try to understand the issue. Work on it with food. The diet doesn't have to be perfect, but you owe it to your pet to try. You have to do whatever is possible for you. You took an animal in that eats meat. That's whole body is designed to do a certain thing. So you have to try. If you have a bunny, you can feed them vegetables. But if you have a cat or a dog, you have to try to feed them some animal protein if you want them to be happy and healthy. That can be eggs, that can be fish from a can, it can be a full raw diet. It can be some kibble with addition from Canine India. I mean, obviously, I would recommend Canine India, but we're not the only people in the world who make food. Like, your butcher also has food. Your eggs are, like, there is many options. Just think and try. Ferment some vegetables yourself. Don't take shortcuts. Don't think medications are an easy option and you're just quickly getting rid of it and that's great. It's not. Trust your pets. Your animals are cute and they're sweet and they're fluffy little things, but they're also beasts with the guts of tigers and of wolves. And you would never see a wolf picking apart his food and being like, oh my God, no, I'm allergic against fur. I can't do that. That's just not going to happen. Our animals are animals and they should have the food they need and they should get the life they need. And I think that's the most love we can give them for all the stuff that they do for us, for all the love they show us every single day. Let's just try to step over our shadows and give them just the tiniest bit of what they need. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to feed the microbiome. If your pet's gut is happy, your pet is happy, and I think I'm out. I think I have to stop. I'm so sorry. Yes, you can feed rice to your dogs, but it will inflame the gut and it's not digestible. It's basically sugar. You can do anything. Just be mindful of balance. Be mindful. Dogs and cats need meat. They cannot digest starches and stuff like that. It's just sugar. So any kind of white rice, skip it for brown rice at least. And I hope you get a little bit of information from this. I'll try to write this up in a blog. And we'll do a Q&A where I don't talk, but you just get to ask questions because I'm sorry I didn't answer anything. But I know that you guys also probably prefer for me to save this. So I'm going to cut you off right here. And the next time we'll do a Q&A about anything you need to know. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope you're not mad that I keep telling you what to do. I hope you're just seeing that I'm like trying to help. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.